Hey there, everybody. Ron Callis with another episode of Automation Unplugged. This is show number 55. I am sorry I am not coming to you live, but either my internet or maybe Facebook were not cooperating. I gave it a good 4 or 5 attempts, and we've decided to revert just to go straight to video, and then we're going to upload it right away. So if you are definitely not watching this live, so you're watching this on replay, thanks so much. It does help if you do like and comment on this post. We are going to have this up on our Facebook page and, of course, our website. And so let me go ahead and just jump into a couple of housekeeping matters. One is if you have not gone over to Instagram to FIrefly LLC and liked us, please do that. That way you can see a steady stream of content. We're going to have all sorts of fun images and messages posted to Instagram. You can keep up to date with FIrefly if you go there. And let's go ahead and jump immediately into our guest. Mr. Steve Weber of Liaison actually just announced in the last couple of days as an award winner of the new Crestron 2018 awards. So congratulations, Steve.
Thanks, Ron. We feel very privileged to have gotten that award.
I am very happy for you guys that you had that public acknowledgement, and of course we'll have to get that content up on your website and out there in all the right places so that the world can see that. Now, if you could tell our audience, Steve, a little bit about yourself, and then maybe transition that into a little bit about Liaison and kind of what you guys about that business. It's a newer business, and you have in my opinion, a rather fascinating background of skills and life experiences that you're bringing to this industry. So can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, I appreciate that, Ron, and thanks for the opportunity for me to be here with you. It's quite an honor. You've had a lot of prestigious guests, and I'm not sure I really match up to the prestige that they have, but I'll do my best to at least share something that's interesting and so forth.
You deserve to be here, Steve, as much as any of those guests. So don't cut yourself short.
Well, thank you. But yeah, I mean, I come from outside the industry, and it's kind of an interesting way how I got here. We started Liaison about 4.5 years ago after I had quote semi-retired from my previous profession, which I still dabble in on a weekly basis, but I practiced general surgery for almost 30 years, and just decided that I was to a point in life where if I was going to do something else and have a second career, I better do it, otherwise I'm going to get too old. And so made that leap. Didn't know exactly what I was going to be doing at that time, but took a year off doing some mission work, helping with some groups to train surgeons over in Africa, which I'm still involved with that group, and I still practice surgery 1 day a week. So I go to a small community hospital about 40 miles from my primary home, and they didn't have a general surgeon there, and so I'm able to help them out, provide a need that they didn't have, still keep my license active, do enough surgery that a part that I enjoy, but not so much that I'm back into the 24/7 of surgery, which is quite draining.
Now, I'm reading here on some of the notes you sent over in advance of us getting together, and I'm just fascinated by the nonprofit work that you did. In fact, I'm going back to when you and I first met back in 2014 or 15, and I remember we had a meeting set up, and you couldn't meet because you were in the middle of somewhere, remote with no cell service, for an extended period of time. And I'm seeing here Macedonia, Kenya, Niger, Bangladesh. So when you're off in all of those places, what are you doing? Are you teaching surgeons how to have surgery, or
yeah? So
what are you doing?
there's a number of things that I participate in, and I'm not doing it quite as much as I used to. Obviously, this job has consumed a lot of my life, and it's hard
The
when you,
integration industry will do that.
yeah, it does. It does. So, growing a company and have to be, around for that. But I'm part of a nonprofit called PACS, Pan African Academy of Christian Surgeons. And it's our mission to train surgeons, African surgeons. We found is that when we were bringing them to the United States to be trained, they wouldn't stay. They would stay in the U.S., but they wouldn't go back and stay
So you
in
have some
Africa.
guests over there
I
peeking
do.
over your left shoulder.
Yeah, so I got some grandchildren visiting this week,
Oh,
and
that's great.
so I'm around home today to do this call and to help out with them. So yeah, you kind of snuck in here,
Yeah, he
but
snuck in, and we got a little shot of him over your shoulder saying, "Hey, what's Grandpa doing?"
yeah. So PAX is an organization that I've been a part of for about 10 years, and it's a great organization. And yeah, we're training African physicians to be surgeons on the level of U.S. surgeons. So they are very well trained, 5-year program, and I'm just glad to be a part of that. So yeah, I will go overseas and be a part of those training. But we have full-time faculty at each one of those hospitals training. They just sometimes need somebody to come in when they go on vacation or they've got conferences to go to. So we backfill for those
Now,
situations.
I'm gonna make a leap here, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But the leap, I'm gonna say maybe as a doctor, you maybe at some point hired an integrator and wanted to enjoy some music around your home or some of the services of an integrator, and that's how maybe you got exposed to this space.
I did. So about 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago, I built a house out in Colorado and hired an integrator out of Denver, and they fell far short of what they could do. And it wasn't a really complex system, but it just seemed like every time I was out there, and everybody that's listening to this knows this story, is I had a programmer at our dinner table every time I was out there because he couldn't get the
They
Crestron
became
system.
automatically, whether you liked it or not, a part of your life and your family situation out there. It sounds like.
Exactly. So I learned a lot about the industry through that. I'd always been very tech minded. Even in medicine, I had done a lot of technology. I was the first surgeon to do robotic surgery in Central Illinois and developed that program here. And then what we call endovascular procedures weren't being done here in Central Illinois. And so I brought both of those to the hospital I was
Tell me
at.
about robotic surgery. What that sounds awesome. What is that?
Well, it allows you to sit at a console and use basically devices like gaming devices. Your hands give you 360-degree movement and very intricate movement inside body parts. So it really is pretty fascinating, and it's come a long way in the last 15 years. Yeah, it's a way to fine tune your own personal movements and to be able to get into smaller places to do things that we can do open wise, but it's much quicker recovery if you can do it with a smaller incision.
Smaller incision, less damage, less recovery required, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, how did you make the leap from having witnessed hiring someone and they fell short of your goals or your family's expectations on the project to saying, I can do that better?
Yeah. So I had learned a lot about the integration industry and needed to move on and actually found a company. It was a Crestron system, so it's a typical story for Crestron that there's integrators that aren't able to quite meet the demand. And I went back to Crestron themselves and said, hey, look, I need to have somebody who can complete this program. Got several names, interviewed them, and actually the company that we actually ended up taking on and partnering with came in, took on, within 3 days, not 3 consecutive days, but basically 3 days of work, were able to complete what the other company couldn't do in 4 years. It wasn't really a complicated system.
Wow.
There was some lighting, there was some audio, and there was some video and HVAC, and they just couldn't, tie it in and really make it work. So once I did that and looked at, the problems that were out there or the perceived problems, I found a challenge and wanted to take it on. So that's what we did. So our goal was to create a company that's scalable, to take a smaller company of 4 or 5 individuals, figure out the processes, put the processes down, and grow it. And so we've been able to, we spent our first 2 years doing that, and now we've got full team in office in Aspen, Denver, Central Illinois, and we're building that team up in Chicago. We've been able to do projects all over the United States, as far away as Boise, Idaho, all the way down to Naples, Florida, and everything in between.
I'm going to throw up on screen here, just for our audience, I'm going to throw up your website just so they can, and what they're going to see here, Steve, is they see the UI on this touch panel. This actually looks like this maybe is an iPad, but can you talk a little bit about that? Because one of the really unique characteristics of Liaison is you have a patented or patent pending UI that you use on Crestron, and it's particularly beautiful and unique.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, and that's been a labor of love. But yeah, we actually have the patent now, and it is based on Crestron's app. So we wanted to create something that was a bit more simple and user-friendly, because that's the common thing we hear from people is, all I want is simple control. So we kind of brainstormed. The company that we took on had already started the work on it, and it's floor plan based, and then there's other visual feedbacks that allow us to give a simpler control, less clicks to actually performing a task.
Oh, that's very cool. Do your customers ever respond and say they want this? I mean, because in the world of Crestron, if they're talking to dealer A, B, and C could all show that customer a different interface, right?
They can. Yep, and not everybody, most end users don't really realize the importance of a GUI and what that is. Especially if they've not done automation before. If they have, and they've had maybe 1 or 2 places with automation, they'll understand it and they get it. But the majority of the new people that are coming on board haven't had automation, and it's an education process helping them.
Now you founded the company in 2014. And you made a decision early on to be a multi-location business. Can you, tell my audience a little bit about kind of the framework of thinking there? I guess I would argue maybe running a business in one market has its own sets of challenges. Running them in multiple markets could be, maybe more challenges, or maybe there's advantages to it.
No, it is a big challenge, and that's why one of the reasons I went into it is I wanted to find a business entity or adventure that was a bit more of a challenge than just going and buying a restaurant or a hotel or doing something like that. By wanting to scale it so that it can be at multiple locations, that's something that's not been done within our industry. The commercial industry's done it. There are some residential ones that have done it and have done a good job, but there have been a number that have failed big time trying to do that. So it's got its own unique problems or challenges, I should say. But it's been done in every other industry. I mean,
Sure.
Anywhere from dental offices to restaurants to grocery stores to hotels, everywhere you go, they've been, quote, franchised, or they've been scaled to multiple locations. Why hasn't that happened with our industry? And again, there's some unique challenges to it, but it's going to happen. And so I wanted to be a part of that to try to get it to happen.
No, that's interesting. I'm going to put on the screen your the list that was just published, and everyone sees. This is the 2008. I'm reading it here. So the 2018-2019 Global Home Technology Awards, the North American winners, and Liaison Home Automation. Look at that. Best shading application. So first of all, congratulations. That's very
Thank
cool.
you. Appreciate it. Yep.
It is a very prestigious list of companies there that have been named. It's kind of cool. I think I know most of them.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
And tell us about that project. What was that project? What were some of the characteristics of that job that you think really stood out to Crestron to name you the winner?
Well, there were some unique things or challenges with the shades on this project. It's a project that's out in Colorado, very modern home, but it had windows that with dividers in them. They needed to figure out a way to cover the windows without being too obtrusive on the outside or put a big header on the top. So we ended up putting several of the shades across the divider and coming down that way. There were some angled windows that we had challenges on, and and then of course hiding some of them in the ceiling by recessing them. So there was a number of different ways we did this. We even did the frosted glass where the crystals align with electricity, and then they're off.
What was the application? Where did you do that?
That was at the front door.
That's cool.
With the side lights around it. So they were clear side lights, but there's times of the day where they didn't want people walking up to the door to be able to see it, but yet they didn't want, and the windows were not large enough to really put shades on them. So that was a solution for them. And we had outdoor shades, and so it was just a combination of all the different things, running them all on a Crestron system, being able to put them on our floor plan based GUI. I guess that's what caught their eye, and they liked.
Wow, that's cool. Now I know you're also big beyond just Crestron. You're all in with Crestron automation, lighting, shading. But there's another company that you've been doing a lot of stuff with, and I'm hearing their name more and more. In fact, I just saw the CEO give a presentation last week at the Liaison conference, and that was Lumistream here out of Florida. Can you tell our audience maybe that doesn't know who Lumistream is and kind of their LED technologies, kind of what has you so jazzed about that?
Yeah, I kind of stumbled across Lumistream about almost 2 years ago and started investigating it. What's unique about them is it's true low voltage. I mean, most of the time when you talk to somebody about low voltage, they immediately think of an LED light. They said, oh, yeah, we do low voltage. We do LED fixtures. What's different about this is that you're only delivering to the fixture the voltage that you need for that fixture. Most LED lights, you're driving a trainload of energy to that fixture, and then you're having drivers or transformers or whatever the case may be to down-regulate it, and then you only use maybe 9 volts, 18 volts. What do you do with all the rest of that electricity? Well, a lot of times it goes to heat, and so you're increasing your cooling energy.
Your energy cost in both with electricity and then the necessity to cool or dissipate or remove that heat through your HVAC system.
Right. So these fixtures only get delivered to them what they need. These fixtures are actually above 90% efficient of converting the energy into light, which is really pretty incredible. The other thing is these fixtures only require 18-2 wire to deliver that. Sometimes 16-2, depending on the distance and certain fixtures. We're using speaker wire to deliver the energy and control to that fixture. So not only do we power it, but we control those lights. And sometimes, depending on the number of lights on a channel, we could be controlling 1 or 2 lights individually, not a whole room. Those typically with a dimmer module, we may be controlling a whole room together. This way we can control individual lights if necessary, if the application is appropriate for that. So and the quality of the light is much superior too. What we call CRI, or color rendering index, is very high. And now they just introduced what we call tunable lights. So they've got recessed lights that are tunable, meaning we can tune in the actual Kelvin temperature, 2700, 3000, 3500, into the programming. rather than buy a 30 or 3,000 Kelvin light and that's what you're stuck with. So it's really cool technology. We did a project that was a combined, or it was a crestron control system, but we combined high voltage and we used the DIM U8s, or the dimmer modules, as well as the LumaStream, and they're fully programmable and tied in. Really worked out nice.
No, that's very cool. And that the Shade project where you won the award, did that have the LumaStream in that home as well?
It did, and we started that project before we were really comfortable with selling and installing LumaStream. It took us a little while. It's fairly simple to do, but there are some learning points. And of course, we have a policy that we test everything that we do before we put it into a project. That way,
Right.
we know the gotchas before they get you.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a smart idea, proven from probably many years of experience. So that is wise. Now I want to jump topics here. Well, actually, I got one more question. I'm looking over here at my notes. I got one more question about the lighting picture, because I know you're really big into lighting, big into LED lighting. LumaStream is one of your partners. And I'm seeing a trend across the industry that, many of the buying groups are now talking about LED or tunable lighting. And, so this is like a very much a hot topic. It's out there in the ether. What is, I'm in a big picture. What is the reason this topic is catching on now? I mean, you're all in. You're pushing and promoting LumaStream and low voltage lighting, and all the buying groups are doing it. Why is this happening now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think it's because we really are the ones that do control. There are some electricians that do control, but for the most part, the electricians are scared by and have tried it and can't do the programming. Now, there's some systems that are easier and they're able to do it, but I think a lot of the manufacturers are realizing that there's a much bigger market out there for control, and who better to do that is
And
the
this puts
integrator.
it, because this is low voltage, this puts this squarely in the domain of the low voltage integrator.
It does, it does, and all of us out there have had problems with particular fixtures being specified, and then they're not dimmable, even though they say they're dimmable. And then we get the flickering, and who do they turn to but us? They look at us and go, "Why am I having problems with this light?" They don't go to the electrician; they go to us. So, what better way to avoid that, or to try to
Do you
prevent
see
it?
much resistance from the consumer? I mean, do they care whether it's a high voltage fixture or low voltage fixture? Do they know enough to care about that decision generally?
We haven't been doing it long enough to really know that there's a track record. The people that we do introduce LumaStream to really get excited about it when you explain the concept and what's behind it, and they realize that, yeah, this is the future.
Got it.
Again, builders are a little, builders are usually behind the times. Most, not all. There's some that are forward thinking, but a lot of them, are just, they're set in their ways. This is the way we've done it. This is the way we're always going to do it. So it's a little bit harder sell with them. But the
We,
end
we
users, they get it.
we are 25 minutes into recording, Steve, and I know we had the technical difficulties. It's why we're recording straight to disc now versus streaming live. So if you're out there watching this on replay, sorry we weren't live, but at least you weren't interrupted by connection issues or digitization, hopefully. But I have two more quick subjects I want to try to cover with you, Steve, if time allows. Do you have a few more minutes?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, I can
So
get long-winded on things, so.
no, but it's good. I'm sure the audience is going to love it. By the way, if you're out there watching this on our Facebook page, even though we weren't live, please like this post, comment. If you have questions for Steve, Steve will be watching the feed, and we'll make sure we get those to him. Quick thing. On the subject of Crestron, so I'm curious, what are you seeing out there in the marketplace as you and your sales team are meeting and interacting with the design community and consumers, do you see recognition of the brand Crestron? Because you are a Crestron integrator, and I believe you lead with that control system. And or do they know the name Crestron, Control4, Savant, or is this really our language and they just know they want home entertainment or home automation?
Yeah, if they know the name Crestron, either they're a commercial and they've had a good experience with it, or they're a homeowner and they've had a bad experience with it. And in Crestron's defense, they make great product, and we love it, and we know it's reliable. Unfortunate thing is, there's a lot of consumers out there that were burned just like I was when I initially got into this. The integrator was not able to complete the project and do the programming. That's not really Crestron's fault, and it's our industry's our problem to overcome. I think and you and I have chatted about this. I think Crestron needs to do a little bit better job of marketing out there to the general public. They don't. They market to us, the integrator, or they've got their marketing teams that go to the the big corporations or the educations and so forth. But there's nothing out there to get out to the general population. I equate it to like Intel. Intel does not need to market to the general public, right? Their customer is get Dell to put it in, get HT to put it in, and so forth. But what do? It's Intel inside, so that the general consumer.
So there still is a consumer-facing branding piece they do. I mean, they have the Intel Inside commercials on TV.
Yeah.
And they have the Intel Inside magazine ads. That Joe consumer isn't necessarily going to call Intel and buy something, but it does create that perception that it's an elite solution. It's an elite processor or technology company.
Yeah. I mean, their commercials, they're marketing their commercials show that it's a quality product. Crestron, I think, could do the same thing. They could go out there and do something similar so that we don't always have to justify that Crestron is a good product. If they're out there marketing it, the consumer is going to see, oh, Crestron's good. Oh, Crestron does all these universities. They do all these government buildings. They do, the Apple headquarters and the Microsoft headquarters. Wow, it's good stuff. I don't, as an integrator, then have to sell on. Then I have to do is sell them on that we can do the integration. We can give you the control of that. We're the liaison, and that's why our name is Liaison, between you and your hardware. So I would like to see Crestron do that. I think that they would get a lot more mileage on it. And I think most all integrators, the ones that I've talked to, would appreciate that.
Have you voiced that to Crestron? I mean, I'm not so confident they're going to start promoting to the consumer, but
no, they
maybe.
Won't.
Never say never.
I'll bring it up to anybody that I get exposure to at Crestron.
Well, a few people will watch this. Maybe somebody from Crestron will watch this and hear you and reach out.
And I'd be more than willing to chat further with them, or to be on a committee or a group or whatever to explore it with them. But I'm one of many integrators out there. But that's just my perception as a consumer of it and going through that experience, as well as an integrator or supplier.
All right, I want to try to touch on one more topic here. Certainly, we can touch on more, but let me jump over here. I'm going to put on screen for everyone I took a snapshot from your website, and it says 3D Showcase. I believe this is under your gallery section. And you have been doing something that I see as pretty innovative, in that you've been using Matterport cameras and shooting your projects and putting those interactive environments on your website. So I'd love you to maybe talk a little bit about that. How did you get the idea to do that? And how has that been received by, people checking you out?
Yeah, so, part of my job is to be the visionary of the company and to try to look at what's out there and what's coming. So I'm always trying to read about new technology, watching videos, of course, our magazines and stuff, and seeing what's out there. But I just like how I came across LumaStream. I came across Matterport, which is 3D photography, and just started learning more about that, and just started thinking about, okay, how can we use that? Part of that was we've been looking at virtual reality and wondering how is virtual reality going to be perceived or used within our industry. And we've got some ideas, and we've got some Vive headsets, and we take it out to the public and have them use it and get ideas and so forth. But Matterport was a little bit different. But I found that was through VR, because you can actually photograph a house, inside of a house, put a headset on, and then walk through that house. And so as I thought about it, I'm going, how could we use that as a company? Well, we all like to document our pre-wires, and we all go in and we either sort of shoot a video, or we're now with our phones go and take shots, but not always do they have the right perception or the right depth of where things are and so forth. With a Matterport, now I know where all my wiring is. And so we go in at the end of a pre-wire, do a Matterport, and we share that with the builder. It's added value to the builder because now he can see where all his other wiring is, from his electricians to his mechanicals to whatever, and have better documentation that he could ever give it. And the builders seem to like it. The homeowners like it. We've been using it for our marketing. So our pictures for our entry into the Crestron Awards were all Matterports. I didn't have to go out and pay a professional photographer for this stuff. Now, it's taken me some time to learn it and for us to get good at it, but it really is pretty simple. And so we use it on a lot of different levels.
No, that's so cool.
On our website.
Do you shoot every project at pre-wire stage and finished phase, or when it's finished?
No, we've only been using it for about 6 months, so I wouldn't say we do every. And of course, with us being in multiple places, we don't have a camera in every location. But I travel between the locations, and when I do, I bring the camera with me, and we'll get the project done when I'm there. So we're still trying to figure that out, but we share it with the architects, with the interior designers, with the builder, with the homeowner, and they all are just amazed by it. They go, wow, that is so cool.
Got it. Question, you are a member of a buying group, correct?
We are, ProSource.
Tell our audience, those that are listening, what should they be a member of a buying group, and what do you see as the key takeaways or benefits to you and your business for being a member?
Yeah, I was a little bit skeptical at first because, there's a cost to it, but it's more than paid off its cost since joining it. In a dollar amount by itself, but the value of having the vendors that the buying group is a part of, and we chose our group because most of the companies we were already using was a part of ProSource. Not all of them. There are some with other buying groups, but we can still sell those things. But the meetings are good. There's value there. It gives us more of a voice than just one integrator out there saying, hey, we're having problems with this. What's going on? And I could name a bunch of companies, and everybody would probably be out there would go, yep, we had those problems. We had that.
Right.
Us going as an individual, again, doesn't have the voice. I've had some problems, and I'll talk to the higher-ups in ProSource, and I'll say, look, did you guys know? Is anybody else having this problem? You might want to watch for this. So
if ProSource goes to that vendor, that clearly has more muscle than any one person. So it gives you strength in numbers, perhaps.
Absolutely. And we as an integrator, the most frustrating thing is when you have a recall on a particular product or a recurring problem, and it's our dime to change it out, right? Or to figure it out and to solve the problem. Sometimes that can cost us a lot of money. I feel that we should get, when it's clearly a vendor's problem and their mistake, my grandson just came in. So
I know. I saw the balloon being bounced over your head.
Yeah. So Clearly,
great.
when there's a problem and that is created by the vendor, they need
Right.
to step up to the plate and they need to help out with those costs. And working with ProSource on some of those issues, that's happened.
That's been priceless. Well, Steve, it has been a pleasure having you on Automation Unplugged, and I want to get you back to go enjoy your grandkids because that is what life's all about, spending time with friends and family. But it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, thank you, Ron. I appreciate it. I appreciate what FIrefly does. You guys have been a great partner in a lot of different ways. Just talking about marketing in general, bouncing ideas off of you and your team has been very helpful to come up with ways for us to grow our market and to get our word out there. So thank you for your partnership. You got a great team and been very helpful.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. I greatly appreciate that. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of my direct-to-video episodes of Automation Unplugged. This has been episode number 55. We've had Steve Weber on from Liaison Home Automation. He's a multi-location integrator and really just a pretty awesome person behind the helm there. Behind the wheel, driving that ship, somebody that's bringing a very unique perspective to our industry and helping us make it better. So I love to feature those individuals that are doing such creative work. So until next time, have a great day and a great week. And I will see you on the next episode. It'll be number 56. I don't have my show art of who that is. I want to say it's Joe Whitaker, but I don't know. Pay attention. Watch our page. We'll tell you who that is. And we will see you soon. Thanks, everybody.